All right, how's everyone doing? I'm Rich CELENZA. Thanks for tuning into the Rich CELENZA Show. WTF are you talking about? So, what I want to call this podcast today is, it's easy to set up your own podcast. I don't think people really realize how simple it is. And one of the questions I get asked a lot is, Rich, can you help me either start me in a direction, I guess you could say, to help me to figure out how to start a podcast, or can you show me how to do it, obviously. Also, like, how much time does it take? Do I need to edit every single podcast? How much money does it cost? Is it too, technical to a certain degree? And I'm here to tell you, honestly, it is one of the simplest things I've ever done in my life. Now, I've made some films in the past and have created a bunch of different websites. Actually, I would do an outline of what I wanted for my web developers, but I am here to tell you, if you want to start your own podcast, it's pretty damn simple. It's probably almost as simple as creating a Facebook account or any social media account. The only difference is you're going to have to put a little more time into it, because you obviously have to do the podcast itself and record it. But that's not that hard, and I'm going to describe that in a minute. But if you want to create your own podcast, and I got so many friends that have like a lot of great opinions, some that are in all different types of industries, which include entertainment, fashion, all different types of things, retail, designers. And hold on, my voice sounds a little scratchy here. Sorry about that. But yeah, I'm going to kind of give you a heads up on how to do this. And it just recently happened again. I was in Chicago at work, and somebody said, Rich, man, I listen to your podcast, and that kind of always throws me, because these are a lot of people I don't even know who listen to it. And she said her and her girlfriend want to start a podcast. And I says, well, why don't you do it? She says, well, I think it'll cost too much money, and it'll take too much time. I'm not, And what's interesting is she works on a computer. And I said, I can show you how to do this right now in a few minutes, and I'm not exaggerating. She's like, are you serious? I said, yeah, and it's not that, like, if you go do this, it's not going to be a lot of money unless, you make it a lot of money. Obviously, how you want to create your podcast and what you want to do, sure, that can be a lot of money. But overall, it couldn't be simpler, at least that I found. And my young sidekick from Full Sail, Omar, he was the one who actually showed me how to do this. And I thought, like everybody else, it's going to be, very hard, complicated. And again, it is time consuming, again, depending on what you want to do. I'm not going to say it's not time consuming. That's the one thing it can become. It's going to take at least probably, an hour to, I think, depending on how long your podcast is, but basically an hour, I'd say, a half an hour to an hour to basically upload it, put the information in there. You got to put text and then your keywords, and then you share it. But once you start to get in a rhythm, you're going to smoke it. Now, the other thing is editing the podcast. I don't do shit anymore. Not that I ever did with my podcast, in which I'll get to in a minute. So first of all, if you want to set up your own podcast, the one I would recommend is Libsyn. I think it's Libsyn. Me and my friends go for on, we call it lesbian as a joke. But if you Google Libsyn podcast, you go on there, you sign up. Now, depending on how much information or the file size that you're going to upload, you can spend $5, $10, $15, $20, $30, $40, $50 and up, depending on how much content you want to put up. I would honestly just start off with $15, $20, and I think you're going to be fine at the beginning. Again, if you're putting up tons of content, that's different, and they'll let you know if you're not spending enough money or what they're charging. But definitely you don't have to go overboard. I don't think you got to spend more, definitely, than $30, $35. So you go to Libsyn, set up your account, and in my case, I only use one piece of artwork, which is an Italian hand signal coming out of a microphone. If you've ever seen my podcast, it's called The Rich CELENZA Show. You probably may have seen it or not. I know you're listening to my podcast. That doesn't mean you've ever seen my logo, but WTF are you talking about? And it's kind of a play off of an Italian hand coming out of a microphone, kind of yelling at its guest, like, what the hell are you talking about? More like that's what my artwork was. So we uploaded that after I set the account up. Now, from there, you can put your social media links. You know, I have Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. I think that's what I have right now. Very simple. It says add, your social media content. So all you do is copy and paste your name with the link to your social media page that you want. Okay, pretty damn simple. Then there's going to be, there's a description on there, if I'm not mistaken. See, I don't like to look at a computer or take notes or anything when I'm doing my podcast. I just freelance. But I'm trying to remember what else I have to do. But there's a description of what your podcast is about. You have a certain amount of text that you can use in there. So you describe what your podcast is about. And then I think it says general or comedy. You put that. And then there's some other brief information, obviously your billing information, right? Then you set your account up. Now, from there, you have to add content, right? And this, to me, was where I was I had a different vision originally for my podcast. And here's the thing. If you want to start your own podcast, just start. Don't don't waste time. Because whatever direction you're probably starting in, you're going to end up in a totally different, section. Or I don't even know if it's section. A totally different route you're going to go. You're also going to end up in places that you may not even have realized that you were going to end up there, I guess you could say. So mine was going to be mainly about interviewing a lot of people in entertainment, a lot of different Italians that I know. That goes for chefs, comedians, actors, producers, directors, all these different people. I was originally going to start taping them either on personally doing my podcast, or I was going to do it through the phone or through the computer. There's all different outlets you can use. And that's what I was going to do, but I just wanted to kind of get my beak wet, I guess you could say. So I first just started talking shit about certain subjects. And then I did interview some people. Sometimes I even had my girlfriend on as a guest. But as time went on, I just didn't have time a lot of times to do what I wanted to do. So I kind of just started to talk about things where I can help people, because that's what I like to do the most, and covering all different subjects. I have a Mastering Self-Confidence program, and that really was also an outlet where I could talk about how to help men find the woman or women of their dreams, even if they've been through a bad breakup or divorce. I also want to talk about many different things I've learned throughout my life, especially, again, when it comes to fitness or confidence or the life that I led, I guess you could say, with my father owning a nightclub through my entire life, my mother being a very diehard Catholic, and me just being in the bar, nightclub, gentleman's club industry till I was about 40 years old, along with making movies and writing a couple books. So I thought I had a lot of things, I guess you could say, to talk about. And the more I did it just me by myself, the more I kind of liked it. Does that mean I'm going to keep doing this the way I'm doing it? Probably not. I eventually do want to start interviewing and doing different things. But at the same time I was doing the podcast, I also started a YouTube video, which isn't that complicated either. If you have a Mac computer, you could do it on iMovie. Literally, someone can show you in an hour. So how to shoot footage on your phone, upload it and edit it. As long as you don't get obsessed. If you make it simple, it's not going to be that hard. But back to the podcast. The one thing I love about the podcast is, for me, and so like I said, my podcast mainly is just me speaking. Now your podcast may be you interviewing people, obviously of different sorts, or it could be whatever you want to make it. Again, that's going to take time. That's where the time comes in. And also, I don't edit my podcast. If you want to go and edit every word or do all these different things, God bless you. Again, very time consuming. Mine is just basically, I'm rolling it. It's almost live. It's not live, but I just roll it. I don't edit anything. When I interview someone, I say, listen, what you say, that's how I'm going to, that's how it's going to go up. I'm not editing, changing it out, so be very aware. Whatever you say, it's going out there. And if you don't like it, then I'm just going to delete the whole thing, and then that's it. But back to getting the information, which I found you could buy a mic. Mics can be, $50, $100, $200. I ended up buying this one for my phone that's like $15 at like Best Buy. And that's one of the mics I use if I interview people, and it's pretty good. I just set my phone close to both our mouths and we talk shit. I also use just my headphone, like headphones that I go into right into my Apple phone. And what I do is I record it on voice memos. So if you have an Apple phone, I don't know if they have it with the Androids or with Google, but there's voice memo, and that's where I record all my information. It's not complicated. You just go to the app, hit voice memo, hit record, and I record. Then when I'm done, all I do is Dropbox it right into my computer. Very simple, into my files. I pull my file out, name it, and I upload it on Libsyn. It says upload info or upload your file. I upload it and I'm uploaded. That's literally about how simple it is for me. That's what I do. So let me start from the beginning just in case people get screwed up here, because maybe I jumped all over the place, which is par for the course for me. But so say I want to do a podcast like today. I decided I want to name it, making a podcast is a lot easier than you think, or whatever the hell the subject I feel like making. I go to voice memos. Again, I can do this anywhere. I could do it in a car. I could do it with someone. I could go wherever the hell I want to do it, because I'm doing it through my phone. I don't have all this equipment. I don't have all these different types of things. If you want to bring all different types of mics and all, whatever you want to invest in, God bless you. I'm just telling you, I do everything through my phone. So today, I had to go to Tampa. I'm doing this inside a parking lot, inside my car, on voice memos. Just clicked it, I'm recording it. When I'm done, I could just walk in a Starbucks, like I was just telling you, take it, share it right into my computer. What did I just say earlier? AirDrop it right into my computer, pops up like I said, title it, go to Libsyn, sign in automatically. It says upload file. I upload it and it's ready to go. Now I have to put the name, what I'm calling it. I have to put like 500 letters or less, I think, text. Basically like one paragraph, what the podcast is about, what the number is on the podcast, who the author is, and then some keywords. And you don't even have to put keywords if you want, but you're probably better off doing it, about the subject matter. And then I share it. And that's it. I don't do any, like I said, I don't change photos on there. I don't do artwork. I don't do any of that. But when I do share it, boom. After that, it goes to, that's the thing about Libsyn. It also goes to like Apple. It goes to iTunes. It goes to, most of the major, if you qualify, which most people do, as long as it's not too filthy and stuff. But all the major, podcast links, I guess you could say, or, platforms, along with my Facebook, like I was saying earlier, LinkedIn, Twitter, and I think YouTube. That's it, guys. Let me get some water here. I should almost, if I showed you on a video, I may do it on a YouTube video to show people how damn easy it is. But I'd have to shoot it on, I'd have to use my phone. That's the only thing if you're shooting your podcast, and you're using your phone for the voice memo. You need another camera or another phone to videotape yourself doing a podcast, which I sometimes do at my buddy, my sidekick, Omar, he went to Full Sail and graduated. He has a degree in audio, I think engineering or something in that nature. He also does music and all these things, but I don't want to get redundant here, but if you do, the one thing I was going to say too is regarding a podcast here, don't be afraid. If you really want to voice your opinion, right? And I think a lot of people do. I think they're afraid of doing it. They want to do it. They don't want to do it. They're really good with, like, say, commenting on social media, right? Or maybe even blogging. Maybe even some people, like, they're good at YouTubing, you know what I mean? Or they're YouTubers. But what I love about a podcast is, like I said, the simplicity of it. And sometimes just talking with people, or by yourself, or whatever platform you want to use, you get a lot of information out there. And like I was just saying, if you don't have to edit your podcast, it is so simple compared to, say, doing a video. A video, as you know, for one, you're shooting it, you got to make sure the audio is right. Well, same with a podcast. Them two got to match. You got to make sure your audio is right. But when you're shooting something visually, you got to make sure your lighting is right. You also got to make sure, whatever you're wearing, Is that working with the video? Your location, is that working? Do you have authorization? Then you have people sometimes in your video. Sometimes they're comfortable, sometimes they're not. I realize that on a podcast, when it's just you two talking, after a while they just forget about it. But when you got a red light or a camera or your phone and you're videotaping them, it gets every flaw is exposed, I guess you could say, on video. Where a podcast, it's really not like that. So that is something to think about as well. And also when you go to edit, a video, even if you're going to edit your podcast, it's still much simpler than I think. I can't say it's simpler because sometimes with audio, if you're going to do a podcast, depending on how much editing, can make it very hard or not that hard. But when it does come to doing a video, you have the audio, right? Then you have the color of the video, all that you have to look out for as well. So anyways, that's just my opinion, but I really do love the podcast. I'd say more than anything. I think it's a lot funner, especially when I've had conversations with close friends, everyone that I've done. I've even played practical jokes on my mother on a podcast, as long as you get authorization from people you're recording. I also did some bits where they didn't even know I was recording them, and we just had conversations, and then, of course, I'd play it back for them. If they liked it, we uploaded it. If they didn't, I deleted it. I would never, do something like that to somebody without their authorization, but it was mainly family members and friends, and I definitely wasn't getting into subjects that they would feel uncomfortable talking about. I don't dabble in politics or get involved with religion. I do have my opinion sometimes regarding that, but I wouldn't recommend necessarily getting really involved with that unless that's your platform. And one thing I also would recommend if you do create your own podcast, again, like I said earlier, is don't get obsessed with it. Start it, but be very open-minded about just testing and trying different things. I don't think a lot of people do that. So one of my friends is obsessed with sports, and sometimes people are like, what, I'm just going to talk baseball. I'm like, that's great. That's your niche. Go with it. But maybe here and there you might want to throw in some other sports just to see the type of feedback you're going to get. Because on Lip Sync too, it'll tell you who's listening. It gives you amazing stats on like what, who's the volume that you're basically getting regarding who's listening to your podcast. And then you can also see it on your other social media platforms, right? You could see it on YouTube or wherever else you put it, which is a really great tool. But don't sometimes get so caught up. I get people want to fall into one niche, right? But if you look at a lot of people that are huge, at least that I see in podcasts, yeah, sure, they have a certain platform that they're known for, but they also dabble in many other different things. And they're a lot of times from what I see, they're very open-minded. And a lot of them have different style guests on there. I've even done podcasts and obviously videos for other people as well, and they'll introduce me as something like the one will be on relationships, one will be on fitness hypothetically, one will be on movies, whatever the case may be. I think if you're a little more open to different subjects, not only can you get different people on your podcast, but you also may want to get on other people's podcasts as well, because say you don't have really a big following at first and they have, I don't know, X amount, thousands of people listening to theirs, that's only going to help you as well. But if you kind of box yourself sometimes into a corner and say, I'm only this, which again, that's something you can do. I'm not saying you can't, but I would definitely recommend, again, being open-minded and constantly, in my opinion, kind of experimenting a little bit, because you never know. It's very interesting with my podcast because I'll do different types of podcasts, and a lot of times the one that breaks out, or the one that gets the most listens, I guess you could say, it's one I never expected. And sometimes it's like I did a thing on The Secret. I used to like The Secret, still do. And I did a podcast, Is The Secret Legit or Full of Shit? Now, I don't know if my title was catchy. That's what caught people's attention. And I just gave my perspective on that, never thinking it would get the volume it got, but it exploded for me. It did really, really well. And I'm thinking, wow. Not that I'm some expert on The Secret or the law of attraction, but again, when you are doing your podcast at the beginning, you kind of I would definitely start figuring out just start figuring out is what I should say, in experimenting right at the, as time goes on, because you never know who's going, what niche. You may fall into something that you never even thought you'd fall into. Like you may think you're an expert, say, in baseball, and before you know it, you may start talking about hockey, football, basketball, whatever, something else. It could be, I don't care if it's highlight, hypothetically, or lacrosse, or something else you may have played when you were younger, or something that you're doing, and all of a sudden you can start seeing the results, and people may like to hear more about that than maybe just baseball, because baseball is just so flooded. Or they get sick of hearing you talking about baseball, say, for instance, as well. So that's another thing, is you may not want to burn. After a while, no matter who you are, we kind of become a broken record. But if you keep maybe changing up certain things or coming at it from different directions, I definitely think that's one of the ways to go, because a lot of times, I'm telling you, like, where you begin, if you look at any really well-known guy who started in podcast or radio, a lot of times they never thought they'd end up where they ended up. But I think it's the journey along the way. And that's how you got to look at with a podcast too. Take the journey and also have some fun. Because if I think what happens with a lot of people is, regarding even social media, as we know, or a lot of different things, sometimes it's not fun. Make your podcast fun, I think. Make it fun for others if you're going to have guests. And just go out and be free. That's the one thing I love more than ever. You can use any language you want. I mean, I wouldn't get too nuts. You can really say whatever you want, but don't forget, it's going to go into the public. I mean, you can delete it, but somebody can save it. Or once it goes out, it's out. But I would recommend having fun, man. I'm telling you, the funner it is, I don't care if you're a gamer and you just want to do podcasts with you and your buddies sitting around playing video games, talking shit about it while you're playing it. You see that, or you want to watch sports. The thing is, just make sure you control the audio where not everybody's screaming over each other, where it's kind of a controlled environment. But yeah, go have fun. Go do what you do, right? And don't be afraid to do it. So anyways, I hope that helps a little bit. But I'm telling you, starting a podcast, I don't think there was it's one of the easiest things I've ever done. And I think it could be pretty damn easy for you. Sometimes you may go on YouTube stuff and they're maybe showing you all the different things that you got to do and this and that. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. Kind of reminds me sometimes of, like certain things in life that you just think are, oh my God, it's technical. It's all this and that. And I need all this equipment and it's going to take all this time and I don't have that. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. I think it's a bullshit thing. So I'm going to wrap it up there. If you get a chance, check out my website, richcelenza.com. It has everything on there regarding where my podcast goes. It shows my YouTube channels, all my social media websites. And I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and some others as well. So you can check me out there as well. I have that Mastering Self-Confidence program. It's just masteringselfconfidence.com. And yeah, go start your podcast. If you have any questions, hit me up. You can leave a comment, email me, rich@richcelenza.com. I love helping people more than anything, and I just think a lot of people blow things out of proportion and make them a lot more complicated than they are. Don't do it to yourself. If you want to go do something, have fun and go do it. I see more people wasting time on social media, leaving comments, getting in arguments, or doing a lot of bullshit things, when if you just took an hour out of your day or just a few hours a week, again, you can do. That's the thing with a podcast, too. You could do one for 15 minutes for a week or a month. You could do 15 minutes a day. You could do an hour a day. You can make your podcast as long as you want or as short as you want. And just have fun with it, man. Don't get caught up, too, in saying, oh, each podcast has to be half an hour. Each, thing has to be an hour. It has to be this way. It's got to be this way. I'm telling you, you set your own rules. I don't know where all these other rules come from. I know a lot of us watch well-known people on, that have podcasts with millions of followers. At the beginning, they didn't have that a lot of people, so they just figured their niche. But don't think you got to follow anyone else's. Figure it out on your own, all right, and have fun. All right, take care, and if you're traveling, safe travels.